Hello everyone, and welcome to your guide on how to play the Scotch game. This opening has been one of my favorite openings for a long time, and it comes after pawn to e4, black replies with pawn to e5, knight f3, knight c6, all normal moves. And here, instead of going bishop to c4 or bishop to b5, we reply with pawn to d4. And now the reason why I love this move so much is because it's super aggressive and it immediately attacks the center. So here black can either take or they could try and defend the pawn. This is a bad option because we can just push and then black is going to have to come back to e7 and we can go c4. And this is a very cramped position for black. We have a very darn good center. We can get our knight out to c3. Get our bishops out however we'd like, and we were doing very well here. Same thing goes if they try and play knight f6. We can push once again, they'll fall back. We can get our knight out to c3, and we are doing excellent in this position. Okay, so now that we know for black that defending the pawn is a bad idea, they will then capture our d-pawn. And here we, of course, capture back with a knight, and then they have a few options. They can either take, or they can go knight f6. They can also come out with a bishop. First, I will just address what to do if they go knight f6. This is known as the Schmidt variation. It's a relatively boring opening to go against, kind of for both colors. After we go like bishop d3, they'll push d5. We can trade down, castle, and I mean, there's really not much here. It's a pretty basic position for both colors, and there's not really too much to look in here. Another option for them is to trade on d4. Once they trade, we'll capture back with our queen, and they can either go knight to f6 or queen to f6. First, if they go knight to f6, this is not a good choice because we can immediately push e5. The knight is going to be forced back to g8 eventually. If they try to delay it with queen to e7, they're just hurting themselves even more because after bishop to e3, this breaks the pin, and the knight has to go back to g8. It may appear that the knight can go to h5, but after g4, the knight is trapped, so the knight has to go back to g8, and then we can just develop our knight to c3, and this is a pretty bad position for black. They have zero development. We have 1, 2, 3 pieces out, and a nice central pawn. We can castle queenside, get our knight in either way, attack this pawn, and this is a very bad position for black. So, going back here to queen f6. Here we just trade down. They'll take back with the knight. Now we can go knight to c3. They'll likely pin, and then after that we can go bishop to d2. I like this line because after takes, it looks like they're getting a pawn, but we can now capture on g7, ruining their kingside castle. And then after they slide the rook over to g8, we can now go bishop to d4. We don't want to go bishop to c3 because now they can capture and we lose our bishop pair and get bad doubled pawns. So here they will likely go d5, and we can go f3 here. I know f3 sometimes seems like a bad move, but it's totally fine in this position because it attacks the knight. And once the knight comes back, another nice feature about f3 is it opens up king f2 for white. Now, this move looks very odd as back here, why would we just not castle queenside? I mean, this move kind of just breaks a lot of chess principles because you want to castle. You don't want to move your king into the center. But it's totally fine here because black traded off their queen and dark squared bishop, so they really do not have an easy way to get to our king. And this move also defends this g-pawn, which will allow our bishop, to get out a lot easier. And if the rooks ever get traded off, it can lead to a much more active king for us, which could give us the edge in the endgame. So after they play like bishop f5, we can now go, they recommend pawn to c3. That's a fine move. G4 is also a very fun option. Sure, we are opening up our kingside even more, and it looks like we also blunder this pawn, but this is still fine, because after rook to c1, bishop has to draw back, and then we can capture this pawn and get a very nice 7th rank rook. If you don't love that option, you can just go c3, play it nice and solid. You can get your bishop out to e2. You can centralize your rooks, and you are doing very well here as white. Alright, so here, black's last good variation, and the most common variation for black as well, is the classical. This comes after bishop to c5. This move develops their bishop, and they hit our knight on d4 in return. Our knight is currently hanging, and we must defend it. We will do just that with bishop to e3. Now, they will reply with queen to f6, just mounting so much pressure on our knight. And at first glance, this might look kind of bad because this knight is just being absolutely attacked from all directions. But after pawn to c3, our knight is anchored down so well. If they try to trade down, this doesn't work because we get a ginormous center, and this is very bad for black. So instead, they will likely just go knight to e7. Here we can now go bishop to c4. And after castles, they'll play g6, d6, sorry. And then here in this position, we want to play knight to d2. But we can't, that's the problem. Because after all trades are made, we end up losing this pawn. Because this knight on d2 blocks our queen's scope from our knight on d4. So we block a piece from defending our knight on d4. So that's why we must trade on c6 first. And after black captures, we can take the bishop, give them nice doubled pawns. We can play f4 here, or you could play d2. But f4 is very nice because it prevents the knight from coming in to e5, which would be very annoying because it would hit our bishop on c4. And this also gives us plenty of central space. Once they go like bishop to e6, we can trade down, get our knight out to d2, and then our queen can come to either like c2 or e2, wherever. We can get our rooks in, and we are doing very well here with a nice center as white. Alright, lastly, I want to show a nice little trap for white in the classical. So, if black really has no clue what to do against the Scotch, if they're very inexperienced against it, they might just play knight f6. This seems like a very normal move, just develops. It also attacks this pawn for e4. Black might think, oh, that's a good move. But it's actually a terrible move because we can now take the knight on c6. Black is forced to take the knight because it hits the queen. So after they take with the b pawn, we can now take the bishop on c5. It's completely free because when we captured the knight on c6, this opened up our bishop's line of sight to the bishop on c5, and this bishop happened to have no defenders, and that is just a free bishop in a nice trap for us. Alright, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, and I will see you all next time.